I'm just going to share on the role of a kids pastor, just kind of our role. I think that's important. This is going to be a very foundational talk, something that you probably people when they watch it want to take notes on. It's just really good, like basic foundational things to remind ourselves. Well, I have to remind myself of every day of why I do what I do. You know, people always do stuff, but sometimes we have to know the why, you know, of what we do. So I'm just going to share a little bit the role of a children's pastor, the role of a kids pastor. And first of all, as a kid pastor or a kid leader or a kid worker, I say pastor because that's what that's my role. However, this applies for anyone who works with kids. If you're just a volunteer, if you're a leader, but as a leader or as a kids pastor, we work with three groups of adults first. I know we think kids, and we do work with kids, but we have to really master working with these three groups first. And the first group we have to master working with are parents. I have to be very diligent and very intentional, not only with my kids, but with our parents, because, you know, I have to reach the parents first sometimes. And so communication with parents is very, very important to reaching the kids, because if you can reach the parents, if you can get them on board, obviously the kids are going to be on board. And also we have to work with our volunteers. That's if you have one volunteer or if you have 20 volunteers, it doesn't matter. If you just have one volunteer, you have to pour into that one person, even if it's your spouse. So like my wife, she's not on staff, she's a volunteer. And sometimes I overlook her because I'm worried about the volunteer team we have. So I want to pour it into them. But my wife loves to remind me that she's a volunteer too. And so, and she is. And so I have to remind myself to pour into her as much as I pour into everybody else, because we've been a team for 20 something years. So she's always at my side. We've always done ministry together, but I had to remind myself that, she's a full-time school teacher. She teaches second grade. And so what she does for Life Kids is a bonus. That's just extra. So we have to pour into our parents. We have to pour into our volunteers. And we also have to pour into and be attention with our leadership above us. And that's very, very important. We have to be sure that we share our pastor's vision, our leadership's vision. We have to be on board with where you're going as a church together. So you really have to be on board with your leadership. And, doesn't mean that you always agree with everything, but we have to be very on board with them, very supportive, and we have to support our pastor at all times. So the three groups, again, are parents. We have to support our parents, volunteers, and the leadership above you. Okay. Now, some people, and I'm sure you've experienced this as well if you're watching this, some people view kids ministry or kid pastors as babysitters. Okay. Let's just be real here. All right. Let's just be honest. I've parents, and granted, it is childcare to an extent because we are caring for their kids. However, it's not just childcare. And most parents, will bring their kids because it allows them to be in church, and that's good. That's what we want. But we always have to be sure that we are ministers. We are doing ministry first. Childcare is just a bonus. Childcare is kind of just a sidebar. You get childcare because of what we're doing in ministry, but we're not childcare first. We have to be ministry first, and childcare second. Now, childcare, obviously, the safety. You want to be sure you take care of the safety issue, all that kind of stuff. But we are ministers first. And I'm sure you might have heard the comment. I've heard these comments, about, well, we're just childcare. We just play games, and we just, we're not really, pastors. We're just back there watching kids. And if you ever want to see me fired up, just tell me, that I'm a babysitter, because I'm called by God the same as our senior pastor is. And God has called people to take care of his kids, and to raise kids for his kingdom. So we have to be very important at that. So, if you hear that, just know that that's not who you are. You are called by God to do a work for God in his kingdom. And yes, childcare, quote, babysitting kind of is a byproduct of that. But we're changing lives first, and we are ministering to kids first. So, Jesus had a lot to say about the importance of children. He told Peter to take care of the sheep and the lambs. We need to view what we do through God's eyes and not by what other people think. If they think you're a babysitter, that's fine. But we have to know who we are through God's eyes and how God sees us. In kids ministry, there is an element of entertaining. And I say that very carefully because, in kids ministry, especially in this generation, in this day and time, people are critical because they think sometimes we entertain. Well, that shouldn't be our focal point. However, with kids, there is some element of entertaining because, we are competing with, Disney and TV and iPads and tablets and cell phones, which entertain them 24/7. So entertainment is not our focal point. However, there is an element in there of entertaining and kid men. Jim Wideman, one of my favorite kids pastors that I love to read his stuff. He says that we are edutainers. We are educating while we entertain. And so that's called an edutainer. So you can do both. You can educate, you can pour in while you entertain. It is doable. So that's educating while entertaining. With kids, obviously, we all know this. Their attention span is limited. We have to be sure that we don't abuse their attention span. This happens all the time. I go around and I see kids leaders, kids pastors who think they're a pastor and they want to just pour out their heart for 35, 40 minutes to a bunch of 8-year-olds. And, it may be great stuff. It might be great material. I mean, they could be throwing it down, biblical, great stuff. But, man, you've lost those kids 30 minutes ago. And so we have to be sure that we honor their attention span. Because, and look, this is the thing. The heart can only grasp what the rear end can endure. Okay? All right? So keep that in mind. The heart can only grasp what our rear end can endure. And, we have to be mindful that these kids get restless. They have a small attention span, and we have to be sure that what the time we have with them, that we impact with what we got. So, kid men is not just about gadgets and toys. That's the element of it. Like in my ministry, we have a pre-service time where we have games out and we do all the fun stuff, and that's good. But, when it's time to start, we start. So we have to also understand that in kid ministry, our role as a kids pastor, that follow-up is extremely important. Follow-up is extremely important. If you don't take care of the sheep you have, God will not bless you with more. Okay, that's a pretty powerful statement. If you can't take care of the sheep that you have, God will not bless you with more. Okay, we have to be sure that we take care of what we got. If you think about the story of Saul and David, when you read in the Bible about all the stuff they went through, the reason why that was so chaotic is because Saul just did not know how to stay in his lane. He didn't accept what God had for him, who he was, what God had for David. There was jealousy, contempt, and all that. And as kids pastor, especially again in this generation where we see all these ministries was just doing all this awesome stuff, and they're just jamming it out, and then we want to be like this to them. I would say the number one thing we have to understand as kids pastors is to stay in your lane. Okay, we got to stay in your lane. You work with what you have. If that's 1 kid, 3 kids, or 10 kids, my first Sunday in so-called kids church, we had 1 kid, and we had 1 kid and a cassette player. That's all we had, and we did what we did. We just played our music. We play it. We would hit rewind, had to find it again, and then we'd play it again. And we would, fast forward and rewind, and it was crazy. But man, we just did what we had, and before you know, we had 2 kids, and we would just pour into 2 kids, and we would pour into 2 kids, and then before we have 4 kids, and we just worked with what we had. I wasn't worried about the church down the street that had 50 kids. That's who they were, but we were who we were, and so we just have to be sure that take care of what you got before God will bless you with more. As I mentioned before, we must have a good relationship with your parents, okay? Because we have to help parents train kids at home. And I know you've heard this before, is that the kids' spiritual training actually starts at home. Parents love to say that all of it comes from church. That's not true. We are a help. We are a supplement to what the parents should be doing in the home. And we have to remind our parents, and we have to train moms and dads and grandparents and aunts, uncles, whoever it may be as a caretaker. We have to train them. Look, yes, we do what we do. We do memory verses. We're giving Bible stories. We're teaching. But it can't stop there. It has to go home. And so we've got to train our parents at home, that there's Bible study at home, and that they're training kids at home, and they're being examples at home. Because if it's not going to happen in the home, it's going to be really, really tough for them. So it's also more than just media and cool stuff. When we see other ministries, we see all the cool media and things like that. It's more than that. Okay, well, our role is more than just giving the latest cool gadget and the latest technology. Okay, kids ministry is all about laying the foundation. Okay, laying the foundation for a lifetime of service as a member of an adult congregation. That's our goal. As a kid worker or a kids pastor, our goal is about laying the foundation for a lifetime of service as a member of an adult congregation. There won't be kids forever. They're going to grow up, and they're going to be adults. And when that time comes, we have to have done our job as kids pastors and parents that they are going to, one, stay involved. Okay, the number is staggering of how many youth leave the church after high school. I mean, it's scary. It's frightening because, they make their own decisions and doing their own thing. And so as pastors and parents, we have to be very, very diligent in keeping our kids involved, that they will become part of an adult service and be involved in that. Also, if you're doing ministry alone, okay, you're going to wear yourself out. You won't see fruit. Okay, you got to have help. You got to have help. Again, this is for any size church. This, if you have 2 kids, it's just you still want to recruit help. You want to do things when you're small. Jim Weidman, I've quoted him before, but he always says, and this is what we go by. I mean, I remind myself of this every week, and it's this: do when you're small what you will be forced to do when you're big. Okay, do when you're small what you'll be forced to do when you're big. Don't wait till you grow to start putting in systems and programs, okay? This stuff you want to do now, okay? Also, the only key component of a kids pastor, okay, one key component of a kids pastor is to submit to the office of senior pastor. We must have a shepherd's heart. Okay, we exist. Okay, you and I, we exist to help our pastor. Okay, we exist to support our pastor and to help our pastor. In 1 Peter chapter 5, verse 2 through 3, okay, we have to understand the role we have as shepherds. Remember, we're a shepherd. Okay, we are shepherds. I'm getting a really, really bad, I don't know what that is. It's like a drumming noise. Okay, but I'll just keep going. There we go. It stopped. We got it. Thank you. All right, so in 1 Peter chapter 5, it talks about our role as shepherds. Okay, our role as shepherds, which is what we are. We're a shepherd. Okay, number one, we have to feed the sheep. Okay, feed the sheep. All right. That's our kids. We have to give the word. Okay. Every Sunday, I make sure that our kids know scripture. I make sure that we pour into the Bible and that we are using biblical things, and we have to give the word. Sometimes we can get more focused on the fun stuff and games and being cool than we can of giving the word. So we got to give the word. We've got to stay need focused. All right. You have to understand your kids. You have to know what kids require what. You may have the really high level kids who get it. You may have some low level kids that need more work. So you want to be sure that we different bite for different kids. We want to be sure that we try to, if you've got a kid who has a hard time memorizing scripture, do something to help that kid memorize scripture. Again, we must work with parents. Keep your pastor informed of what you do. We have to be sure that we let those over us know what's happening. Okay? Let your pastor know of your wins. If you have a kid and your service that they get saved, the first thing I do when we have kids on Sunday I let my pastor know, hey, we had 3 today in Kids Church, who gave their heart to Jesus. You got to let him know. Also of an issue. If you have an issue come up in church, let your pastor know. Always keep your pastor in the loop of what's going on at all times. Pastors don't like surprises. Okay, they don't like that Monday phone call, all right, an issue that happened in kids ministry on Sunday, and you weren't the first one to tell him. Okay, don't let the parent be the first one to call, because the story is going to get crazy. Okay, from Sunday to Monday morning, a lot of talk has been going on between that child and that mom and dad. The story by then is like blown up crazy. So if you have an issue in your service with a kid or a child or even a teacher or a volunteer, be sure you get on the phone and say, hey, Pastor, I just wanted to let you know today, this happened, and you get the story out there before the mom calls, okay, or the dad calls. That way when he receives that phone call, he is informed and he can know what's going on. But trust me, they don't like to be blindsided with stuff like that. You want to be sure to keep them informed, okay? As a shepherd, you want to teach visually, okay? I teach with something in my hand all the time, okay? I always teach visuals. If you just stand in front of 2 kids, 10 kids, 20 kids, and just talk for 30 minutes, they may get a few things out of it, but it's not going to be very impactful. You have to use objects. You can use all kinds of things. So teach visually. Use a variety of methods to teach. I use video. I use object lessons. I can use a game to teach, skits, characters, puppets. Just use a variety of methods to teach. If you use the same method every Sunday or Wednesday, they're going to catch on to you. And every time they come, oh, well, Pastor Kevin, we know he's going to teach this way. Okay. So, man, mix it up. Surprise them. Okay. Surprise them. We want to make God real, not just a program. Okay. We want to make God real. If there's one thing I've learned about this generation of kids is that they just want people to be real. Okay, they want you to be real. They want to see a real God with real, with real issues. They want just realness. Okay, so make God real to your kids, and to do that, you have to be real with your kids. Okay, kids can read our mail just like that. Okay, if you come in on a Wednesday or a Sunday and you're just going through the motions, you may think you have your kids full, but I promise you, they can pick up on it, and they know. Oh, hey, Miss So-and-so, she didn't want to be here tonight. She's just here because she has to be. Okay, so be real with your kids. Number 2, the first main role is feed the sheep. Okay, second is care for the flock. Okay, care. We are caregivers. Okay, we're caregivers. Have a relationship with your kids. The reason why I came in here just almost late was because this morning we went to a hockey game of 3 of our kids in our ministry. That's stuff that you can do that is caregiving. You're building relationships with your kids. You have to know your flock, be available to your kids, talk to your kids, love on them, listen to them, meet their needs. Okay, it's pastoral care for kids is all it is. Just like your senior pastor, or even you may go to, make hospital visits. You have to do the exact same thing with kids, even if they're not in the hospital. Try. And look, we can't do it all the time. I mean, I've got 3 kids of my own, so I can't go to every basketball game and every game in my ministry. I only go to the ones that I'm invited to. Okay, like this morning, the family invited me. They said, "Hey, you want to come there again?" Sure. So we were at 8 o'clock this morning. We were at a hockey game to watch the of our kids. That's just pastoral care. That's just caring for your flock, because those kids, they won't forget that. Okay. This morning, one of the kids scored their very first hockey goal ever. So we were a part of that. I told them, "Hey, man," I said, "we're a part of history. You scored your first goal today." And so, caring for your flock is important. Number 3, be the overseer. Be the overseer of your ministry. So how do you do that? Number 1, you cast vision. All right, cast vision. If you cast a vision for your ministry, people will want to be on board. They will want to help you. They will want to volunteer because you're working towards something. Okay, you have a vision. You've got to always share vision with everybody you can and everybody you know. You got to delegate your jobs to be effective. Have a good structure. Okay, structure meaning that there's a process for things. Like if someone wants to volunteer, it's a process. Don't let someone just say, "I want to volunteer," and throw them in the classroom without doing background checks, without knowing who they are, without knowing a little bit about them, because that's not a good look for you, and it's not good for parents. So even if they're your best friend, even if you know them, you grew up with them, I mean, they're a good person, still there has to be a process. There has to be a structure, because remember, we're doing when we're small what we'll be forced to do when we're big. So you want to have things in place when you're small. That way, when God blesses you and your church begins to grow, when that time comes, you can say, "Oh, man, we've got this in place. We've got this in place." And, man, it's a great first impression to people when you already have all the stuff ready to go. So have a good structure. You want to evaluate. What I do in my ministry, like I'm doing this tomorrow on Sunday. I have a team that I've trained up 2 of the teams that can do kids church for me. So tomorrow, as they're leading kids church, that allows me to walk around and evaluate. So tomorrow, I will spend time in the nursery. I will spend time in the toddler room tomorrow. I will spend time in our preschool room. Not to go in and make the teacher feel nervous. I'm just going to step in just to evaluate. Okay, how are the kids responding? How are the teachers doing? Not that they're a hired employee. That's not what it's about. But I just want to see what is going on, because sometimes I am in the elementary service every Sunday. I don't get to see what goes on in the nursery and the preschool and the toddler room. So tomorrow I will get to kind of be in those rooms and just be present, because first of all, I want those kids to know me. That way when they do come to kids church, to the elementary kids church, I won't be a stranger to them. "Oh, who's that guy talking?" I want to be seen in the nursery, in the preschool room. That way they know who Pastor Kevin is. So evaluate, manage the ministry, manage it, set policies and procedures. And listen, this is probably going to be, parents sometimes don't like policies and procedures, especially if you're in a small church, okay? Because everybody is known, everybody's family, everybody's friends, and that's good. But the moment you start to set policy, the first thing well, why are we doing this? I know you are, but remember, it's just about safety. It's just about, the safety of our kids. Like we do a check-in system, and I don't let little sister come pick up little brother. Mom and dad's got to do that. Is it convenient? Probably not. Because after church, people want to fellowship, people want to talk. But so they want to send little teenage brother to go get little sister. Okay, we have a policy. They can't do that. Okay, mom and dad who have a ticket Whoever set that kid in has to come pick them up. Okay, so it's just policy procedures that are set in place. Also, you want to train your workers. Okay, you want to, again, if you have one volunteer, train them. Okay, what do you want them to do? I need you to do this. I need you to greet kids. I need you to do worship. I need you to sign kids in. Okay, how do I do that? Okay, train your volunteers of what you want them to do. All right, number 4, be a servant. I'm almost done. All right, number 4, be a servant. Okay, you must be willing to serve. Okay, must be willing to serve. Have a servant attitude. Model serving. Okay, you have to model serving. For example, we are a mobile church. Okay, so every Sunday we come in at 7:30 in the morning. We set up our church. We set up kids, nursery, adult service, media, sound. Every Sunday morning we set that up and we tear it down. Okay, we've done that for well over a year now. And we'll be doing that until the end of this year. Now, I have a team that's trained to do that. I mean, they come in, they know exactly what to do. I could probably not show up until about 9 o'clock and they would probably do okay. But I want to be sure that I am modeling serving. So I am there every Sunday at 7:30 with them. And I'm setting up. I'm serving. I'm putting sound up. I'm putting things up. Even though they could do it, okay? But I just want to be sure that I am modeling what I expect from them, okay? So we have to be sure that we model serving. So, we have to be a hard worker. Let's just be a servant. Okay, number 5, be an example. Okay, we have to be an example. The most important role of a kids worker or a kids pastor is to be an example. We have to be an example of Jesus. We have to be an example of our pastor. We have to be an example of our life. We have to be an example of our family, our ministry. Okay, your family is the greatest sermon you will ever preach. Okay, your family is the greatest sermon you will ever preach. Okay, how my kids act when they're at church reflects on me. Okay, so we have to be sure that we are an example, not just us, but all of us. Now, I'm not saying my kids are always like they just come in. Look, kids are kids, right? My kids are going to be turds sometimes. That's just part of it. Okay, but they do show respect though, and I want them to show respect. Yes, sir. No, sir. Things like that. So our family sometimes is the best sermon that we can preach to our church. So we have to be sure. So our heart has to be right. Our heart has to be an example. We have to be sure that we are an example to those who watch it, because we all know we're always being watched. Okay, even though I'm always in the back and people, I'm not seen as much because we're always doing kids service. I know that people watch what we do, and they watch my kids. They watch my wife. They watch our team who serve, and all of that is a reflection of leadership. So we have to be sure that we are an example. Okay. You have to listen to what your mouth is saying, because it's always a reflection of your heart. Okay, it's a reflection of your heart. And also, last thing, never love children's ministry more than the children. Okay, don't get more caught up in how we do things than loving on kids. Our main role is just to love on kids. Okay, show them Jesus. Listen, kids have problems too, okay? Every time we've got prayer time and kids come up, they tell us some heartbreaking things that we would never guess, okay? It might be from a family that you would think would never have this kind of issue. But kids, you know this, kids tell everything, okay? They'll come up and they tell everything. If you ever want to know what's going on in the church, have a prayer request session for kids. Okay, they will tell everything going on. Mom and dad's been fighting, okay? I'm not saying that's funny stuff. I'm just saying if you want to know what's going on, kids will tell everything. So kids hurt. Kids have hurts. They have needs. And we have to be very sensitive to those hurts and needs. We can't just assume because they're kids that they don't have big life issues. They do. And they will come tell you things that they really need your prayers for, and they need you for. Okay, so that's about it. we want to, that's our role. Just a little recap real quick. Number one, our role, feed the sheep. Okay, feed our sheep. Care. Number two, care for the flock. Number three, be the overseer. Cast vision. Number four, be a servant. Have a servant's heart. Model serving. Five, be an example of Jesus, of your pastor, of your family, of your ministry. Be a great example. And, just try to keep your kids engaged. And, and also, last little tidbit here, we are preparing our kids for youth. Okay, sometimes we forget that. Okay, we are preparing our kids for youth ministry. We want them that when they go to youth ministry, that for one, that we hope that they serve and that they stay plugged in. So we want to do our best that we can, that our kids will, to make that transition into youth ministry. Okay, so bottom line, if you've been called by God to serve kids, don't freak out. One thing I've learned is that He will always equip you. When I was first called and started down, I was like, Lord, what are you doing? I mean, I'm probably the last person you ever want to serve, to be called. But you know what? God saw fit to call me. And I have learned through these last 20 or plus years, He will always equip. Okay, God always equips us for service. You've heard the saying, He doesn't call the qualified, He qualifies the called. Okay, so when He first calls us, we might feel qualified, and we probably aren't. But through the process, He will qualify us. Okay, so that's about it. If anybody has any questions?
You mentioned having follow up. Like for you guys, how do you follow up with your kids?
Yeah, great question. Follow up. How do we follow up? So we use Planning Center as our check-in system. And so I can go in there on Monday. So on Monday mornings, I do reports. I go into Planning Center and I kind of find out who hasn't been coming or who missed Sunday. Now, if you don't have a system, you have to know who's not there. Okay, so if you know someone is not there or if they haven't been coming in a few weeks, I typically don't follow up. Let me rephrase that. With first-time guests, there's two types of follow-up. There's follow-up with your guests and there's follow-up with your regulars. Okay, so there's two types of follow-up. Okay, with your guests, obviously you follow up that week. I mean, Monday, Tuesday morning, hey, glad you came to see us. Glad you were our guest. I do a postcard. So I send the first-time guest postcard out on Monday. It just says, glad you're part of Life Kids. And I send it to the child because kids love getting email. They think it's cool. Yeah, so I don't send a postcard to mom and dad. I put the kid's name on it. Even if they're a 2-year-old, I put their name on the postcard and their address, okay? Because kids love to get mail, especially, toddler. That kindergarten to 5th grade, they think it's cool. So I send a postcard. Hey, glad you were with us Sunday. Hope to see you again. One thing I do we give a special guest badge for a first-time guest. On the badge, it says, if you bring this badge back next Sunday, you get a free gift. Okay, so if they bring this badge back next Sunday, we give them a $5 gift card to like Walmart or to like a little toy store here in town. So that kind of gets them back the second time. Now, so that's guests. So first-time guests, I send a postcard. I'll do an email. They have the badge to come back. Now, that's the easy part because sometimes we get so caught up in first-time guests that we forget about our family. We forget about the ones who do come every Sunday. And so typically I don't follow up with a family until they miss 2 weeks, okay? Because if someone misses one Sunday, I don't go crazy and send postcards, where you been? This is vacation, things happen. But if they miss 2 in a row, all right, well, then I'll say, okay, I'm going to send my postcard. We missed you, where you been? No, I'm just kidding. We don't say that. But, we just follow up. So first-time guests, Monday or Tuesday, we follow up. Church family, regulars, if they miss 2 in a row, well, then I will follow up with them, just say we missed them and see what, make sure. everything's okay. Obviously, if 3 or 4 weeks have been missed, well, then we really want to follow up. So postcards is what I do. Vista print, I had some postcard printed, really cheap with our logo on the front of it. And then I do handwrite. I think it's a little kind of the extra mile to do handwritten postcards. You're just kind of showing that you're taking time to sit down and focus on that person. And so I do a little handwritten postcard, glad you came to visit Life Church, Life Kids, and hope to see you back next week. So postcard. But now the only way that we can do that is by getting information at check-in. So our team is trained that when we have a first-time guest, they fill out a family information card, and they put their address, phone number, email. I ask them, can we text you? Can we text? And if they say yes, then I can send a text. But information first, and then we follow up that way. So postcards, emails is how I follow up, and that's about it.
Awesome. All right, Kevin, thank you so much. This has been great stuff. It sparked a bunch of questions as I was like, oh, I want you to follow up more on that. So there's a lot of good stuff. So I'm looking forward to that. If you're watching online, make sure that you post any questions. You can feel free to email me at hans@jubileefc.com, and we will include that in future training events. And just thank you, Kevin, so much, man. This is awesome. I really appreciate you guys doing this. This is great.
No problem, man. Thanks for having us. We appreciate you guys, man. Yeah, thank you very much. Appreciate it. We enjoyed it.